I want to talk about The Voice. And as you know, I am a supporter of The Voice, as is our next guest, who I'll introduce in 1 second. But that doesn't mean that I think that anyone who opposes The Voice or raises questions about The Voice isn't worth listening to, or that they're a bad person, or that they're a racist. But that is precisely what Get Up has said following the statement from the National Party yesterday. The Nationals got up and said that they would officially oppose an Indigenous voice to Parliament, which is a shame. They said that the measure would do very little to improve the lives of actual Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians, particularly those living in the regions. And, of course, members of the Liberal Party, Jacinta Price and Warren Mundine, who are both also friends of mine, also oppose The Voice. And I disagree with them, but I certainly do not think that they are racist, because they're both Indigenous, for a start. But the Get Up CEO, Larissa Baldwin-Roberts, has said David Littleproud's announcement is incredibly alarming. Disagreeing with something is incredibly alarming. And then she said, it is racist. It entirely discounts what is at stake here and has no place in our parliament. So what, now we should be booted out of parliament for not supporting The Voice? We have an opportunity to draw a line in the sand and to begin to break down systemic racism that fans the ignorant, prejudiced views such as the National Parties, which we've heard today. So anyone who disagrees with you on this issue is now a racist. That, to me, is exactly the sort of anxiety that people who oppose The Voice or are just a bit worried about it have. That this is something that is just dumped in front of them and they said, vote for this or you're a racist. And I think that these kind of statements are actually far more counterproductive, and they actually harm the Voice campaign far, far more than they help it. But what would I know? Why not ask someone who's actually running the campaign? So I thought we'd get him on. Dean Parkin from the Heart campaign. Welcome to Drive. Lovely to have you on board as well, mate.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Good to be here, mate.
Mate, firstly, let's go to the Nationals' decision. That would have been disappointing, but I imagine that the fact that Andrew Chi, a National who was not in the party room prior to that statement being made, has since come out and said he supports it. So there is some good news there, isn't there?
Yeah, look, it was a very strange announcement yesterday, Joe. The timing of it, the nature of it. It's a bit concerning, actually, that you've got the leader of a political party in the Australian Parliament coming out and saying that they're going to not support a proposal when the proposal hasn't even been put to them. I think we expect that our politicians will do the job that they're elected for, which is to consider proposals on their merits and consider them properly as they should in the Parliament, and that's not happened. That didn't happen yesterday with the Nationals announcement. So that I think it was a very strange. The timing of it was strange, and I didn't really understand the reason why the Nationals thought they had to do that yesterday.
It seemed to me that maybe they thought that this was important for them politically. Perhaps after the Victorian election result, they felt that they needed to sort of stake out a sort of clear set of conservative values, if you like, even though I think The Voice actually has merits on a small c conservative basis, that it's practical and sensible. But notwithstanding that, maybe they just felt, maybe they're getting feedback from their members who are worried and they're thinking, Christ, we got to cauterise this, or we got to make a stand on this.
Well, it certainly flies in the face of the general public opinion on this, and it certainly flies in the face of people who would vote for the National Party. Our own research shows that people that vote for the National Party support The Voice at numbers greater than the general population. So I'm not exactly sure with the political rationale. I'm not a political strategist, Joe. I'm sure that there are very good reasons. They're beyond my ken on this particular issue with respect to the Nationals' decision. That is for them, and that's for them to explain to their members. I mean, as you say, Andrew G's come out front bencher in the shadow Cabinet's come out and said he supports it. The Nationals branch in Western Australia have come out and said that they disagree with the federal party's position. So, look, we're not even 24 hours after the announcement, and already there's significant dissent within the Nationals themselves. I'm not sure this was entirely well thought through. Well,
and also, I suppose, from your point of view, that's a good thing, because it shows that the people aren't necessarily locked into a position, and there is room for maybe a conscience vote within the National Party room, but there is at least a diversity of opinion within the party, and I think that helps your cause. How helpful is it to label anyone who says that they oppose The Voice a racist? That can't be the sort of stuff you want to hear.
Look, that's not the experience I've had with this, Joe. That's not the experience this campaign has had over this period of time. Of course, there are people with different views. There are people with different views for a whole bunch of different reasons, and that's entirely okay. We also know that there are a lot of people that are quite awkward speaking about these issues, people in the general population that are awkward talking about Indigenous affairs in general. And sometimes that can come across in ways that it does feel a bit uncomfortable at times. But what we've got to do and understand is that we've got to bring as many people on board as we possibly can. We want to create space for all of those different and divergent views. And it's okay. It's okay if people don't necessarily want to support, but we believe that the majority of Australians absolutely do, and that gives us great encouragement for the referendum.
Does it make it difficult to persuade people to your cause when they've already been sort of dismissed as bigots? Does that make your job harder?
It doesn't help. It doesn't help. Let's be clear on that. And I think, as I say, for the experience of most of us that have been in the campaign for some time now, that's not been our experience.
Yep.
So what we want to say to people, we want you to engage. We want you to feel this whole issue has been proposed by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with dignity and generosity and respect. And all we're asking for people engaging in this issue, even if you disagree, is to engage on those terms. And I think we need more of these kind of discussions in Australia where people feel like we can respectfully talk these things through. We can agree strongly, we can disagree strongly, and at the end of the day, but we can do that in a way that's respectful and dignified. And I think that's what we're aiming to do. And I've been encouraged by the response that we've been getting in the conversations around the country. Because
I think there is this misconception about what The Voice is actually trying to achieve. It's not just a symbolic gesture, as David Littleproud suggests, and he's not alone in getting this sense of it, but it's not this kind of symbolic gesture just to make inner city people sleep more soundly at night thinking they've solved all the world's problems. The whole purpose of it is that it does engage people in the regions, people at the grassroots who aren't actually being consulted at the moment, and actually puts them at the forefront of making policy for Indigenous people instead of the urban, bureaucrats who are making it at the moment. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of what David Littleproud said it was.
It is actually exactly the opposite of what David Littleproud said. This came from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people from urban, regional and remote areas. This comes from a divergence of views from across the country from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that said, we can't afford more symbolism. Our communities cannot afford more symbolism. We need real practical change. And the best thing that we can do, the most effective thing that we can do, is making sure that the voices in the communities that understand how these issues work, health, education, housing, how they actually play out on the ground, not in offices in Canberra and Brisbane and Sydney. How do they actually play out on the ground? We need to bring that wisdom and experience and intelligence close to where those decisions are made, and we'll get better outcomes. And I just want to say this too, Joe. Comments were made about suggestions were made that the Redfern community were, had it easy and that this wasn't about them. Can I say to Mr. Littleproud, he might want to organise a visit and meet with some of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community representatives in Redfern. There's people there doing it very tough there. Yeah. It was very misguided comment, that one.
Yeah, I have to say, having lived in Redfern, I don't remember the block being a particularly luxurious place. Dean Parkin, director of the From the Heart campaign, thanks so much for joining us on Drive, mate.
Thanks a lot, Joe.